What is good, everyone? It's your boy Darth Sora, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite personal Star Wars movie and the movie I think that brought the most to the franchise and pieced everything together the best, and that is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, obviously I just told you it's my favorite Star Wars movie, so there's some personal bias in this video, but I will always give anyone who says this movie has cheesy acting and poor dialogue, I will always agree with you guys. This movie gets a little bit of points knocked off even for me because of that, but I just always want to let you guys know what Star Wars movie doesn't. You have to think about that. I think the prequels get a lot of hate for that. Even if you go back to the original trilogy, which all Star Wars fans, seem to be like the holy grail to them. I love the original trilogy, don't get me wrong, but even that movie has its cheesy, acting and poor dialogue. So don't be too harsh to the prequels and Revenge of the Sith because of that. But getting right into it, I just want to say when it comes to the plot and things that are involved with the story, I think it's overall the best. You get so many different things happening in this movie. You really get to see where the Jedi went wrong. And I say where the Jedi went wrong because at their core, Jedi are supposed to be just peacekeepers. They are not politicians and they are not soldiers. But in the prequel trilogy, and especially in the Revenge of the Sith, you get to see them stray away from their Jedi code and kind of go against it, which ultimately ended in their demise and why the Jedi Order went extinct. Now, it's really cool to see all this happen because in the original trilogy, you just want to think like, how did these Jedi go extinct? These peacekeepers, these great humans, they're so powerful and they're so wise, but they're extinct. How did that happen? And this movie really shows that beautifully. Alright, after talking about the Jedi and their failures, I want to transition over and talk about characters and the character development throughout this movie. And we're going to start off with none other than Anakin Skywalker. Now, the big selling point of Revenge of the Sith is Anakin and how he becomes Darth Vader, but there's so much more to the character in this movie. The big thing I want to talk about, especially after talking about the Jedi and their failures, is how the Jedi failed Anakin. Anakin, time and time again, showed his worth. Time and time again, Anakin saved other Jedi in battle and on missions. And Anakin ultimately just wanted to become a Jedi Master and be on the Council. The Jedi did not feel like he was ready enough despite all of his accomplishments in battle, and they denied him. This ultimately led to Anakin's very, very good friendship with Palpatine being formed. Palpatine was always there for Anakin to kind of, let him talk about what's going on in his life and the stresses that are going on with him. And Palpatine just becomes a friend to Anakin who he can discuss things that he's not able to talk to the Jedi about. Especially Padme, since being in a relationship and, being in love is against the Jedi code. So over time, they become good friends. Anakin is denied, being on the Jedi Council. Palpatine appoints Anakin to be on the Jedi Council for him. This really sends a red flag to the Jedi. They kind of get some suspicion. And then Palpatine opens up to who he is after seducing Anakin throughout the movie. And after Palpatine reveals that he is a Sith and he can help Anakin save Padme, Anakin turns Palpatine in. Mace Windu goes to Palpatine with some other Jedi to confront him and arrest him. Ultimately, it does not work. The Jedi are too weak for Palpatine, and even though Mace Windu beats him, Mace Windu did not want to let him stand trial. Anakin intervened because he knew he needed Palpatine to save Padme, and he cared about that more than anything else, even more than the Jedi Code. So he helps Palpatine defeat Mace Windu, and he becomes Darth Vader in that very moment. Now, it was so epic to see. Then we see Anakin kill the younglings. Order 66 goes down. Anakin and Obi-Wan have their epic duel. And then Anakin is ultimately defeated, burnt to a crisp, and becomes Darth Vader as we know him in the suit. You hear the breathing for the first time. You hear the voice. And it's just so beautiful. Now, I could go talk about Anakin for days and days and days and his character in this movie, but there's so many other characters that do a lot and transform a lot in this movie. Other one being Palpatine, the Chancellor. He starts off really being like how he is in the other movies, just a politician that once in a while in the shadows, in holocrons and things like that, reveal himself as Emperor Palpatine. But in this movie, you kind of really get to see him open up, and you can see a lot more of him being the Emperor. And then he reveals himself to Anakin, as I explained, and Palpatine, or Emperor Palpatine, is born. After Mace Windu is reflecting the electricity, you kind of see why his face is so deformed, and you get to see the look of, Emperor Palpatine, and it's super cool. And he gets to be extremely evil after kind of the jig is up, and I really like that because Palpatine in the original trilogy, when you meet him, he is one evil dude, and you get to see this like innocent acting politician throughout, 1 and 2 when it comes to the prequels, and then 3 you kind of get to see him, okay, this guy is not this innocent old man you think he is. And I think that was really cool. Now, the other character I really want to talk about is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Throughout this movie, I think he really displays that he is the most pure Jedi. I think the thing I always really appreciated about Obi-Wan is extremely loyal to the code, but Obi-Wan also knows what's right from wrong. He'll always be vocal about it. Obi-Wan will bend the rules when he needs to, but he does not like to, and he does not do it unless he has to. A lot of other Jedi masters, around Obi-Wan will never bend the rules. And I think that's really what separates Obi-Wan and makes him like the most pure Jedi, is he does things the right way. He doesn't always follow a strict code. He uses a lot of his feelings and what he thinks is wrong and right to impact his decisions. And I feel like that's very important as a Jedi. And on top of that, despite him being involved in politics here and there, Obi-Wan is diplomatic. He likes to discuss things rather than always fight. He pretty much only fights unless he has to. And I feel like a lot of the other Jedi in the prequels fight just to fight sometimes, and that's really where they lose their way. But Obi-Wan only fights unless he has to, and that is the pure essence of a Jedi, to be a peacekeeper, not a soldier. And I think Obi-Wan displays that the best out of all the Jedi in the prequel trilogy. The last thing I want to say about Obi-Wan is I really like how he's truly a Jedi master in this movie. I think in episodes 1 and 2, he was just a glorified Padawan. And from the start of this movie, he's a Jedi master. He really takes charge of Anakin. A lot of the decisions and his influence are all throughout the Jedi and impacts a lot of the decisions they make. And I really like that because Obi-Wan has always been my favorite Jedi, and it's really cool to see the character development and him go through this arc. Besides these 3 main characters, I really like that we got the explanation of why Yoda is the way he is in the original trilogy. In this movie and just throughout the prequel trilogy, Yoda was the leader of the Jedi, and after the Jedi failed and lost their way and pretty much went extinct, Yoda took the burden and accepted full responsibility of what happened, and he went into exile pretty much to die. Obi-Wan did something similar, but Obi-Wan was at least looking over Luke, and he had a plan, and he was pretty much just waiting to execute that plan. Yoda legitimately went to just go die. He distanced himself from the Force, and he's like, this is it. I'm just pretty much rotting away, and when I die, I die. Thankfully, Luke got to him before then, but pretty much Yoda's purpose was just to die. And I really didn't understand why at first, but when you watch Revenge of the Sith and the prequel trilogy, you get to see why Yoda, was so distraught after everything. Alright, now the last thing I want to talk about here is how we got to see the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the Empire and that whole transition into the original trilogy with this movie. If you think about it, like the first half of the movie was still Jedi centric, the second half was Sith centric, and I think it was really beautifully done, and I think that transition was done really well because the halfway point was kind of like Anakin's transition to the dark side. You got to see that happen, and then the movie really focused on the Sith, Anakin and Palpatine there on out, and it was beautiful, and I think it was done really well. My closing statements for this video is I could talk about this movie for hours and hours upon hours. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say I gave you guys a lot of my personal reasons, when it comes to the plot, when it comes to the characters, and when it comes to how it transitioned for the original trilogy and kind of set it up, even though it was done afterwards. I think it was just done beautifully. I think George Lucas does not get enough credit for this movie and the prequel trilogy in general. There's a lot of hate for it, but this movie and just that trilogy was done so well. And I just gotta say, if you guys don't agree with me, at least that this movie was really, really good. You might not love it or think it's the best like I do. I think if you don't, you're a little crazy, but that's a different topic, different time, But I think if you don't at least agree that this movie was done really well and how pivotal it is for the Star Wars franchise, then I can't help you out. I don't know what will help you out. This movie is the GOAT, in my opinion, and I told you guys why. Hope you agree, or at least I hope you understand where I'm coming from and give the movie the credit it deserves. So with that, I'm going to end this video. I hope you guys like this topic. I had to, do this straight from the heart. We had no script, so I did a couple different takes. But I love this movie. I genuinely think it's the best, and I hope you guys agree. So I'm going to leave. Peace out, guys. Have a great day, and may the Force be with you.